Du-hyun wiped the sweat from his forehead as he polished the crystalline floor of the stellar palace. The morning light from the three suns filtered through the massive windows, creating rainbow patterns across the surface. At 17 years old, he was one of the youngest human servants in the alien Queen's court. 50 years had passed since the Teguk ships first appeared in Earth's skies. They came with their advanced technology and powerful weapons, but they didn't destroy cities or wage war. Instead, they simply took control, as easily as someone might pick up a fallen leaf. Du-hyun's job was simple: keep the palace clean and stay quiet. He had learned these rules well over the past 3 years. The tall, crystalline-skinned aliens barely noticed him as they walked past, their long robes brushing against the floor he had just cleaned. "You missed a spot," a friendly voice said behind him. Du-hyun turned to see Jae-ho, another human servant who worked in the palace kitchen. Jae-ho was older, maybe 30, with kind eyes and a small scar above his right eyebrow. "Thanks," Du-hyun said, quickly wiping the mist area. "Have you seen the Queen today?" Jae-ho nodded, lowering his voice. "She's meeting with Commander Tadwan again. 3rd time this week. Something's happening, but nobody tells the cleaning staff anything important." Do-hyun had noticed the increased meetings too. More military officers were visiting the palace, their armor clicking against the floor as they walked. The air felt heavy with tension, like the calm before a storm. As they talked, a group of alien nobles passed by. Their skins sparkled in the sunlight, each facet reflecting different colors. Du-hyun always thought they looked like walking diamonds, beautiful but cold. The nobles were talking about Princess Yi-jin's upcoming celebration. "The princess is different," Jae-ho said after the nobles were out of earshot. "Yesterday, she thanked me for serving her dinner. Actually thanked me. Can you imagine?" Do-hyun could imagine. He had seen Princess Yi-jin several times, always watching how she treated others. Unlike most of the Teguk royalty, she seemed to notice the humans around her. Sometimes, Du-hyun caught her studying them with curious eyes. The peace of the morning shattered as alarms began blaring throughout the palace. Red lights flashed along the crystal walls, and guards rushed past them, their weapons ready. "All servants, return to your quarters immediately," a voice commanded over the speakers in both Teguk and human languages. Do-hyun started to pack up his cleaning supplies, but something made him pause. Through a nearby window, he saw more guards running toward the Queen's private garden. Their movements seemed urgent, panicked even. "We should go," Jae-ho said, pulling at Du-hyun's sleeve. "You know what happens if we disobey orders." Yes, Du-hyun knew. Disobedient servants were sent to work in the underground mines, never to see sunlight again. But something felt different about today. The air itself seemed to buzz with strange energy. "You go ahead," Du-hyun told Jae-ho. "I just need to put these supplies away in the storage room." He pointed to a door near the garden entrance. Jae-ho looked worried, but nodded. "Be quick," he said before hurrying away. Do-hyun waited until his friend was gone, then moved closer to the garden entrance. The door was slightly open, and voices drifted out. He recognized Commander Tadwan's deep, commanding tone. "The Queen is not to be disturbed," the commander was saying. "This is a private matter." Through the gap in the door, Du-hyun could see Queen Maire's tall figure standing near her favorite crystal flower bush. But something was wrong. The Queen's usually perfect posture was slouched, and her skin seemed to be glowing with a strange golden light. Do-hyun knew he should leave. Every rule, every instinct told him to run. But as he watched, the Queen turned slightly, and her eyes met his through the gap in the door. In that brief moment, he saw something impossible: fear on the face of the most powerful being in the galaxy. Then everything changed. The Queen stumbled forward, her crystalline hand reaching out toward nothing. Commander Tadwan moved to catch her, but he was too far away. Do-hyun watched as if time had slowed down. Without thinking, he pushed the door open and ran into the garden. Queen Maire's tall form crumpled to the ground. Her usual bright, multicolored skin was turning dull, except for the strange golden light that seemed to pulse beneath the surface. Du Hyun reached her first, just before her head would have hit the hard crystal path. "How dare you touch her?" Commander Ta Won's voice boomed across the garden. "Guards, seize this human." But the queen's hand suddenly gripped Do Hyun's arm. Her touch was cold, like touching ice, but that golden light jumped from her skin to his. It felt warm, almost pleasant, spreading up his arm and through his chest. "Wait," Queen Myri said, her voice barely a whisper. The commander stopped, torn between protocol and his queen's command. "The boy," he sees. The garden had filled with guards and medical staff. Princess Yi Jin burst through the crowd, her face filled with worry. "Mother," she cried out, dropping to her knees beside them. Do Hyun tried to move away, to give the princess space, but the queen's grip remained strong. The golden light was now pulsing between them like a heartbeat. To his surprise, no one else seemed to notice it. "Your Majesty," the royal doctor said, scanning the queen with a strange device. "You must let us help you." Queen Myri's eyes locked onto Do Hyun's. They were different from any Tagak eyes he had seen before, deeper, filled with ancient knowledge. When she spoke again, her words seemed to echo inside his head rather than in the air. "They never understood," she said, though her lips barely moved. "Why Earth? Why humans? But you will know." The golden light flared brightly, and Do Hyun felt something pour into his mind. Images, feelings, and knowledge flooded in like a breaking dam. He saw stars being born, civilizations rising and falling, and secrets that made his head spin. Then, as suddenly as it began, the light vanished. The queen's grip loosened, and her once bright skin turned completely dull. The garden fell silent. "The queen is dead," the royal doctor announced, bowing his head. Princess Yi Jin let out a cry of anguish that seemed to shake the crystal walls. Commander Ta Won barked orders, and guards began clearing the garden. Do Hyun found himself being roughly pulled to his feet. "This human touched the queen," Commander Ta Won said, his voice cold with anger. "Take him to the detention cells." "No," Princess Yi Jin said, standing up. Though her face showed grief, her voice was firm. "He tried to help. I saw it." She turned to look at Do Hyun, and for a moment, he thought he saw a flicker of that same golden light reflect in her eyes. "What is your name?" "Do Hyun, Your Highness," he answered, trying to keep his voice steady despite the strange energy still coursing through his body. "Do Hyun will return to his duties," she declared. "I will speak with him later about what happened." Commander Ta Won looked like he wanted to argue, but even he couldn't override the princess's authority in this moment of succession. He signaled the guards to release Do Hyun. As Do Hyun walked back to the servant quarters on shaking legs, he could feel the weight of the queen's last gift settling into his mind and body. The world looked different now. He could see faint lines of energy flowing through the crystal walls, connecting everything like a vast web. In his quarters, he caught his reflection in a mirror and gasped. For just a moment, his eyes had flickered with that same golden light. Something extraordinary had happened in that garden, something that would change everything. But as celebrations of the new queen's succession began outside, Do Hyun sat quietly in his room, trying to understand the impossible knowledge now living inside his head. Do Hyun could not sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, the queen's memories flooded his mind. He saw distant worlds with purple skies and oceans made of liquid crystal. He watched ancient battles where Tagak warriors wielded energy like weapons. Most importantly, he began to understand why the aliens had really come to Earth. A soft knock on his door made him jump. It was well past midnight, and servants were not allowed to leave their rooms after dark. He opened the door carefully to find Princess Yi Jin standing there, wearing a simple robe that made her crystalline skin look less bright than usual. "Your Highness," Do Hyun whispered, bowing deeply. I'm not supposed to." "Let me in quickly," she said, looking over her shoulder. "The guards will be here soon on their rounds." Do-hyun stepped aside, his heart pounding. The princess of the Taeguk Empire was in his tiny servant room. She looked around the simple space with interest before turning to face him. "Tell me exactly what happened in the garden," she said. "What did my mother say to you?" Do-hyun hesitated. The queen's memories told him that sharing certain knowledge could be dangerous. But there was something in the princess's eyes that reminded him of her mother. "She showed me things," he said carefully, "about your people's history, about why you came to Earth." Yi-jin stepped closer. "Did you see a golden light?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Do-hyun's eyes widened. "You saw it too. I thought no one else could." "My mother told me about it when I was young," Yi-jin explained. "It's called the ancestral light. It's supposed to be passed from ruler to ruler, carrying the wisdom of all previous queens." She touched one of her faceted arms. "But it didn't come to me. It went to you." Suddenly, Do-hyun understood one of the memories that had been bothering him. "Your people came to Earth because you were losing the ability to control energy," he said. "Each generation of Taeguk became weaker. But humans have something we lost long ago." Yi-jin finished. "My mother discovered this, but Commander Ta-won and the others wouldn't listen. They preferred to think of humans as servants, not equals." A noise in the hallway made them both freeze. Footsteps approached, then passed by. Do-hyun realized he had been holding his breath. "Try to move that cup," Yi-jin said suddenly, pointing to a metal cup on his small table. "What do you mean?" "The ancestral light gives the power to control energy. If you really received it, you should be able to move things without touching them. All Taeguk royalty once had this ability." Do-hyun looked at the cup. He remembered how the queen had manipulated energy in her memories. He reached out with his mind, trying to feel the strange web of power he had seen earlier. The cup wobbled slightly. Yi-jin gasped. "You really did receive it. But how is this possible? You're human." "Maybe that's why," Do-hyun said, thinking of another memory. "The queen's memories show that humans naturally have a stronger connection to energy. Your people lost that connection over time, but we still have it. We just never knew how to use it." More footsteps in the hallway, and this time they stopped outside the door. Yi-jin quickly moved to the corner of the room. "Find me tomorrow in the library," she whispered. "We have much to discuss, and not much time. Commander Ta-won is already making his moves for power." The door opened, revealing a surprised guard. But Do-hyun's room was empty except for him, sitting on his bed as if he had just woken up. Somehow, without thinking about it, he had used his new power to bend light around Yi-jin, making her invisible. The guard apologized and left. When Yi-jin reappeared, she was staring at Do-hyun with a mixture of fear and hope. "Tomorrow," she repeated, then slipped out into the darkness, leaving Do-hyun alone with his growing powers and the weight of ancient knowledge. The next morning, Do-hyun cleaned the palace halls as usual. But everything felt different. He could see the energy flowing through the crystal walls more clearly now. When no one was looking, he practiced moving small objects with his mind. Each time, it became easier. In the queen's memories, he found more answers. The Taeguk had once been like humans, filled with natural energy. But their advanced technology slowly replaced their natural abilities. Over thousands of years, they lost their connection to the energy that flowed through the universe. Only the royal family kept this power alive through the ancestral light. "Watch out," a voice called. Do-hyun turned to see a heavy crystal vase falling from a high shelf. Without thinking, he reached out with his mind and caught it in midair. Then he realized his mistake. High Priest Hinul stood in the hallway, watching him with unblinking eyes. The priest's skin was darker than most Taeguk, almost black, with silver lines running through it. "Interesting," Hinul said quietly. "Very interesting." Do-hyun quickly grabbed the vase with his hands, pretending he had caught it normally. "Thank you for the warning, Your Holiness," he said, bowing low. "Come with me," the priest ordered, turning toward the temple wing of the palace. Do-hyun's heart raced as he followed. The temple wing was forbidden to servants. Its walls were covered in ancient writing that glowed faintly. He recognized some of the symbols from the queen's memories. Hanul led him to a small room filled with old books and strange devices. "Sit," the priest commanded, pointing to a simple chair. "How long have you had this ability?" Hanul asked after closing the door. Do-hyun thought about lying, but something in the priest's manner told him that would be dangerous. "Since yesterday," he answered truthfully. "Since the queen." "Ah." Hanul nodded slowly. "So that's what she did. We wondered why the ancestral light didn't pass to Princess Yi-jin." The priest picked up an old book. "Did you know that humans once had powers similar to ours?" "Yes," Do-hyun said, surprised. "I saw it in the queen's memories." "Memories?" Hanul looked sharper now. "You received more than just power. This changes everything." The priest began pacing the room. "Commander Taiwan plans to take control soon. He has created a device that he claims can restore the Taeguk's lost powers. But it will actually drain energy from humans instead." "Why are you telling me this?" Do-hyun asked. "Because I serve the light, not the crown," Hanul answered. "The queen knew what Taiwan was planning. She must have chosen you for a reason." The priest touched one of the glowing symbols on the wall. "I can help you understand your new abilities, but we must be careful. If Taiwan discovers what you can do." A loud bell rang through the palace, signaling the start of the morning court session. Hanul quickly wrote something on a piece of paper. "Meet me here tonight," the priest said, handing him the paper. "Tell no one, not even the princess. The walls have ears, and not everyone who smiles at you is your friend." Do-hyun left the temple wing with his head spinning. Now he had 2 secret meetings to attend: the princess in the library and the priest in the temple. The queen's memories stirred, showing him visions of ancient betrayals and secret wars. As he walked back to his cleaning duties, he noticed Commander Taiwan watching him from a balcony above. The commander's crystalline skin seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making him look like a shadow against the bright palace walls. Do-hyun pretended not to notice, but he felt the weight of the commander's stare. The queen's memories whispered warnings in his mind. Soon, he would have to choose who to trust, and that choice would affect both human and Taeguk alike. Do-hyun spent the afternoon watching the clock, his stomach tight with worry. He had to meet Princess Yi-jin in the library before his secret meeting with High Priest Hanul. As he cleaned the corridors, he practiced hiding his new abilities. The energy streams were visible everywhere now, flowing like rivers through the palace walls. The library doors looked bigger than usual when he arrived. Inside, tall shelves reached up toward the crystal ceiling. Princess Yi-jin stood near a window, pretending to read a book. She wore formal royal robes today, her skin shining brightly in the afternoon light. "You're late," she said without looking up. "I'm sorry, Your Highness." Commander Taiwan had guards watching the corridors. Yi-jin closed her book. "He suspects something. This morning, he suggested that my mother's death wasn't natural." She turned to face Do-hyun. "He thinks someone stole the ancestral light." "He's right," Do-hyun said quietly, "but he doesn't know it's me." "No, but he's looking." Yi-jin moved closer, speaking softly. "The commander has called a special council meeting tomorrow. He's going to show them his new device, something he claims will restore the Taeguk's lost powers." Do-hyun's heart jumped. This was exactly what Hanul had warned him about. "Princess, I need to tell you something." The high priest. The library doors burst open. Commander Taiwan walked in, followed by 4 guards. His dark crystal skin seemed to absorb the room's light. "Princess Yi-jin," he said, bowing slightly. "I've been looking for you." His eyes moved to Do-hyun. "Why is this servant here?" I asked him to clean these shelves. Yi Jin answered smoothly. The dust was bothering me. The commander smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. How interesting, because I just saw him cleaning the east wing. He stepped closer to Do Hyun. Unless you can be in two places at once. Do Hyun felt sweat on his forehead. The commander's energy field was different from other Taeguk. It seemed to pull in light instead of reflecting it. I finished the east wing early, sir, Do Hyun said, bowing low. Commander, Yi Jin interrupted. You said you were looking for me. Taiwan turned back to the princess. Yes. The council has moved tomorrow's meeting to tonight. I think you'll find my presentation very interesting. He paused. It concerns the future of both our species. After the commander left, Yi Jin grabbed Do Hyun's arm. Tonight. That's too soon. We're not ready. Ready for what? To stop him. She pulled out a small crystal disc. I found this in my mother's private room. It shows what Taiwan's device really does. It doesn't give power. It steals it. From humans. The Queen's memories stirred in Do Hyun's mind, showing him similar devices from ancient wars. He's going to drain the energy from Earth's humans to power the Taeguk. Yes, but first he'll test it. Yi Jin's voice shook. On the palace servants. Tonight. Do Hyun thought of Jaiho and the other human servants. He had to warn them, but he also had to meet Haenul, who might know how to stop the commander's plan. Princess, he said, making a decision. There's something else you need to know. High Priest Haenul. A bell rang through the palace, signaling the start of evening ceremonies. Yi Jin looked at the clock in panic. The council meeting starts in 1 hour, she said. Do Hyun, whatever you're going to say, it has to wait. Meet me in my mother's garden after the ceremony. If we're going to stop Taiwan, it has to be tonight. She hurried away, leaving Do Hyun alone in the library. He held the power of the ancestral light, but now he had to choose. Should he trust the princess and risk missing his meeting with Haenul? Or did the high priest hold the real key to saving everyone? The answer would change the fate of two species forever. Do Hyun made his choice. He ran toward the temple wing, his footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. The Queen's memories told him that technology could be dangerous. But ancient wisdom might hold the answer to saving both humans and Taeguk. The temple wing was dark when he arrived, lit only by the glowing symbols on the walls. High Priest Haenul stood in the shadows, waiting. You're late, the priest said, just as Princess Yi Jin had earlier. But you came. Good. The commander is testing his device tonight. Do Hyun said quickly. He's going to use it on the human servants. Haenul's dark crystalline face showed no surprise. Yes, I knew he would move quickly after the Queen's death. The priest walked to a wall covered in ancient writing. Do you know what these symbols mean? Some of them, Do Hyun answered, recognizing parts from the Queen's memories. They tell the history of your people, not just our history. Haenul touched one of the glowing marks. The history of both our species, humans and Taeguk, once lived together, sharing the power of the universe. But the Taeguk grew proud. They chose machines over nature, technology over wisdom. A hidden door opened in the wall. Inside, Do Hyun saw a small room filled with a soft golden light, the same color as the ancestral light. This is what remains of our original power, Haenul explained. The same power that humans still carry naturally. Taiwan's device will destroy this connection forever if we let him activate it. Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the palace. A voice announced that all human servants should report to the main hall immediately. It's starting, Do Hyun said in panic. I have to help them. Wait. Haenul grabbed his arm. The priest's touch was cold, but there was warmth in his voice. You have the ancestral light. Combined with the power in this room, you might be able to stop the device, but you need to learn how to control it first. Do Hyun thought of Jaiho and the other servants gathering in the main hall. He thought of Princess Yi Jin waiting in her mother's garden. Time was running out. "Teach me quickly," he said. Hanul led him into the golden room. "Close your eyes. Feel the energy around you. The queen's memories will guide you." Do-hyun closed his eyes. The energy streams he had been seeing became clearer in his mind. They formed patterns, like a giant web connecting everything in the palace. "Now," Hanul said, "reach out with your mind. Don't try to control the energy. Become part of it." Do-hyun followed the priest's instructions. The queen's memories showed him how the ancient Taeguk had worked with energy, not against it. Slowly, the golden light in the room began to move toward him. A loud crash interrupted them. Commander Ta-won stood in the doorway, his dark form blocking the exit. Behind him, guards held Princess Yi-jin with her arms behind her back. "I knew the priest was hiding something here," Ta-won said, "but I never expected to find a human touching our sacred power." He pulled out a small device that hummed with a deep, wrong sound. "Perfect. Now I can test my invention on someone who actually has energy to drain." Do-hyun stood up, the golden light swirling around him. He had not finished his training, but there was no more time. He would have to trust in the queen's memories and his own natural connection to the energy. The fate of two worlds now rested on what he did next. The golden light swirled around Do-hyun as he faced Commander Ta-won. Through the queen's memories, he understood what he had to do. The commander's device could only steal energy if that energy was fighting against it. But what if the energy flowed willingly? "Release the princess," Do-hyun said, his voice stronger than he expected. Ta-won laughed. "You dare give orders? You're just a servant who got lucky." He held up his device. "Let's see how special you are once I drain every bit of energy from you." The device hummed louder. Do-hyun felt it pulling at his energy, trying to tear it away. But instead of fighting, he let his power flow toward it, just as Hanul had taught him moments ago. The device began to glow too brightly. Ta-won's confident smile disappeared. "What are you doing?" the commander demanded. "Stop this. Your device was built to steal power," Do-hyun said calmly. "But you never thought about what would happen if someone gave you too much." Princess Yi-jin understood first. She stomped on her guard's foot and broke free. "Everyone get back," she shouted. The device in Ta-won's hand was now shaking. Golden light poured into it faster than it could handle. The commander tried to drop it, but the energy held it to his hand. "The ancient texts warned us," Hanul said, stepping forward. "Force cannot control the universe's energy. It must be accepted with wisdom and respect." Suddenly, the main hall alarms stopped. Through his connection to the palace's energy, Do-hyun could sense what was happening. The human servants were breaking free from their guards. The device's power was affecting all the technology in the palace. "It's over, Commander," Yi-jin said. "Your plan has failed." But Ta-won wasn't finished. With his free hand, he pulled out a weapon. "If I can't have the power, no one will." He aimed at Do-hyun. The queen's memories flashed in Do-hyun's mind. He saw the moment when the Taeguk first chose technology over their natural gifts. He saw how that choice slowly changed them, making their skin crystalline and their hearts cold. But he also saw hope, a future where both species could work together again. Do-hyun reached out, not with force, but with understanding. The golden light touched Ta-won's crystalline skin, and for a moment, the commander's dark surface began to glow with its original brightness. This is what we lost," Ta-won whispered, his weapon falling from his hand. "The true power we gave up for our machines." The device finally broke apart, its pieces falling harmlessly to the floor. The golden light spread through the palace, touching every Taeguk it reached. Their crystalline bodies began to glow with their own inner light, remembering what they once were. In the main hall, humans and Taeguk stood together, watching in wonder as the ancient power awakened in all of them. The walls between the species, built over centuries of pride and fear, began to crumble. Princess Yi-jin walked to Do-hyun's side. My mother knew this would happen, she said softly. She knew we needed to remember what we forgot. That's why she chose you. She chose all of us, Do-hyun replied. Humans and Taeguk, together. But as the golden light continued to spread, Hae-Newell's face showed worry. This is only the beginning, the priest warned. Some will resist this change, and the power awakening in both our species, it might be more than anyone is ready for. The light reached the edges of the palace, ready to spread to the city beyond. The true test was about to begin. 1 month had passed since the night in the temple. Do-hyun stood beside Princess Yi-jin, now Queen Yi-jin, as she addressed the gathered crowd in the palace's main square. Both humans and Taeguk filled the space, their energy signatures glowing together like stars in the night sky. The time of separation is over, Yi-jin announced, her voice carrying across the square. My mother's last gift showed us the truth, that we are stronger together than apart. Do-hyun watched the crowd. Many Taeguk had changed over the past month. Their crystalline skin now glowed with inner light instead of just reflecting it. The humans, too, had changed. They stood taller, more confident, as their natural abilities awakened. High Priest Hae-Newell had been right about the challenges. Some Taeguk nobles had resisted the change, claiming that sharing power with humans would weaken their empire. But they could not deny the results they saw every day. In the new training centers, human children played with young Taeguk, learning to shape energy together in ways neither species could manage alone. The old machines that once powered the empire were being replaced by joint human-Taeguk power stations, where both species worked in harmony with the universe's energy. Commander Ta-won stood in the crowd, his once dark crystal skin now glowing softly. After his device failed, he had chosen to embrace the change. His military experience proved valuable in teaching both species how to control their abilities safely. The path forward will not be easy, Queen Yi-jin continued, but we have already seen what we can achieve together. She gestured to the sky, where the latest achievement hung like a second moon. A joint team of humans and Taeguk had created a new space station, powered entirely by their combined natural energy. It was the first step toward exploring the galaxy together, as equals. Do-hyun felt the Queen's memories stir in his mind. They were gentler now, more like old friends than overwhelming visions. They showed him glimpses of possible futures, some bright, some dark, but all depending on the choices both species would make together. Jaiho appeared from the crowd, carrying his young daughter. She reached out her small hand, creating a butterfly made of pure energy that floated toward a Taeguk child. The Taeguk child caught it and changed its color, making both children laugh. You did well, Hae-Newell said quietly, appearing beside Do-hyun. The Queen chose correctly when she gave you the ancestral light. She gave us all something more important, Do-hyun replied. She gave us the truth about ourselves and a chance to make things right. As if in response, the golden light that had started everything flickered briefly around him. But now it wasn't just his light. Similar glows appeared throughout the crowd, connecting everyone in a web of shared power and purpose. Queen Yi-jin finished her speech to thunderous applause. As she turned to leave the platform, she smiled at Do-hyun. They both knew this was just the beginning. There would be more challenges, more resistance, and more hard work ahead. But the barrier between their species had been broken forever. The sun set over the crystal city, its light reflecting off the buildings and the glowing skin of the Taeguk. Humans walked freely among them, their own energy signatures bright in the growing darkness. In homes and schools across the planet, two species that had once been master and servant were learning to be something new: family. The Queen's final gift had changed everything. Not by giving power to one boy, but by reminding two species of the power they had always shared. Together, they would write the next chapter of their story among the stars.